Thank you, Chancellor, for your kind words. I'm very conscious of the fact that I stand between you and your celebrations, so I'll be brief. Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, Dean, academic colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and most importantly, new graduates. Let me first add my heartfelt congratulations to all our new UNSW graduates and wish you all the very best for your futures. You're entering what is predominantly careers in healthcare and biomedical science at an exciting time. In the next generation, your generation, the insights being gained from the genomics revolution and the associated rapid advances being made by coupling this to sophisticated phenotyping and applying it all to what's being labelled precision medicine will be realised in ways we can only imagine at this time. As our Chancellor foreshadowed, and as you'll see, there are a number of echoes of our Chancellor's opening comments in what I have to say, and I promise we didn't swap notes. Artificial intelligence will add another whole dimension to how you do things. There'll be many frustrations and blind alleys, no doubt, as this all rolls out, but there will also be many advances and breakthroughs, some of which will be of great help in the management of people with illnesses, and all of which will be fascinating intellectually. I envy you. I'm very conscious of the great honour that's being bestowed upon me today by UNSW, and I'm both thrilled and humbled by it. As I think has been mentioned, my association with UNSW goes back a very long way. In fact, it goes back further than 1968. As a 13-year-old, I watched the Queen open the medical building, the Wallace-Worth building, in its first iteration in 1963. And whatever your views might be on the value of the monarchy, etc., that lady does have enormous staying power. She's still the Queen, and I'm now retired. After my brief encounter in 63, I came to UNSW as a student. In 68, as the Dean recounted, and I remember vividly walking around this part of the campus. In fact, the building we're sitting in at the moment was a pile of rubble. It was in the process of being planned and built at the time. But as has also been recounted to you already, after a 3-year dalliance at what I think the Chancellor referred to as one of the lesser universities, Oxford, where our presiding Dean today, I should add, Professor Rodney Phillips, spent a much longer time than I did and enjoyed a very prestigious career before coming to UNSW. And after that, I've been at UNSW ever since in one way or another, and what an exciting time it's been to be here. I've had the pleasure of knowing and working with a number of Vice-Chancellors and Deans of Medicine over that time, and I've watched the UNSW student body and its physical and electronic infrastructure grow mightily in that time. I've seen UNSW develop into the truly world-class university that it is today. But I have to say I've seen nothing that surpasses for scale and ambition the 2025 strategic plan developed by our present Vice-Chancellor, Ian Jacobs, since his appointment only 3 short years ago. It represents a quantum step up on the world stage for UNSW, and wonderful things will come from it. As always with ambitious strategies, there'll be areas of concern and disruption. These are generally good things to have, of course, and these will need to be worked through methodically and sympathetically. And I can see that that's happening. My own Faculty of Medicine, with our Dean in the vanguard, is playing a leading role in driving these changes, and I'll watch with great interest from the sidelines as the strategy is rolled out over the coming years. I've been incredibly fortunate in my career, but I'm also very aware that some of that good fortune came, as it usually does with all human endeavour, from being born in the right place at the right time, choosing the right parents, etc., etc. And growing up in a time when academia in general and medical research in particular was expanding and full of exciting new opportunities. The exciting new opportunities are still there, of course, but unfortunately the funding's not expanding at quite the rate it used to be. And I would definitely concede that times are tougher now for young potential researchers setting out on careers. As has been mentioned by our two previous speakers, I'm supposed to give you some advice. It's sort of customary. Having spent half a century as both a student and a teacher at this wonderful university, I know that I've learnt far more from my students over the years than they have from me. And I'm hesitant to provide advice to an audience such as this, filled as it is with highly intelligent young men and women who are perfectly capable of working out their own professional lives for themselves. So keeping that in mind, I will reflect briefly, you'll be pleased to hear, on some of the values that have driven me during my own career. First, and by far the most important of these, is absolute personal and professional integrity, without which, in my view, any professional career is rendered worthless. This seems self-evident to me, and I will not dwell further on it. We see every day in our news media graphic examples of what happens when people forget about that. The other two values I'd like to highlight are excellence and service. These, of course, are highly relevant to all careers. Very clearly, all great universities and universities with aspirations to greatness and their academic staff must embrace excellence as a core value. This was once, I fear, more clearly the case than perhaps it is now, and compromising excellence in the name of expediency or pragmatism, which is often code for funding but not necessarily, is a constant temptation to be avoided. You must constantly be on your guard against it. Whatever professional pathways you may take should always be travelled with the intention of doing worthwhile things and doing them well as you possibly can. Excellence is important, of course, and I have great sympathy for the pursuit of knowledge for its own sake and put a lot of energy into it myself. Great sympathy for the single-minded search for the answer to whatever the question of the day is. But I believe that it's critical to temper our seeking after excellence with a liberal dose of what I call service. And I think there's another echo back to the Chancellor's opening comments. He talked about specialisation. I'm talking about the same thing, really, using slightly different words. Yes, excellence, yes, focus, but these things should be dished up with a liberal serving of what I'm going to call service. It's a very broad concept, and it can and will be interpreted very differently by different individuals. But what I'm trying to say, I think, is that it's important to give something back along the way. In an academic career such as mine, this might be service to one's students and one's university, and possibly to the broader society. But it doesn't have to be that. In different career paths, it will be different things, but however it manifests in your own professional lives, it's important, and it should be grasped as life-enhancing and not seen as some sort of obligation. Each of you will work out what it means for yourself, I have no doubt. I realise that for many of you, despite the long years of study you've already been through, the path ahead to whatever your ultimate career or careers may be is still not clear. Or alternately, it's clear enough, but still seems a long way off. I certainly know that feeling. I've on many occasions come to the end of one course or program or project marked by the award of a degree or something like that, only to realise that what this entitles me to do is to start all over again at the bottom of the next ladder. So despite what I said earlier, I will offer one piece of advice which I found very helpful in such situations. It's not original, I know. In fact, it's a cliche, but only because, as for many cliches, there's a big element of truth to it. Embarking on a career, and for that matter on a life really, should not be seen as an ordeal to be endured until the final goal is achieved and somehow, as they say, magic happens and bliss follows, but as a journey to be savoured, often with diversions and side paths and smelling the roses and all that along the way, even if some of those side paths are not followed for long. You're already well along on that journey, and at least some of you may have a long way to go. That should not be remotely daunting. Quite the opposite, it should be exciting. Enjoy your travels as I have enjoyed mine.